The NBA has some of the best fans in the entire world, and it's no secret that once you fall in love with the league, you will always be a fan of it. And speaking of NBA fans, why don't we check out this week's Sixth Man? Let's watch this.
As the NBA celebrated its 75th anniversary, past and current players were added to the list of the league's greatest players. Joining the elite company of the NBA's 75 best to ever play the game is none other than Seattle Supersonics legend Gary Payton. No one could be happier than Glenn Flash Antonio, a big fan of the league and the biggest Gary Payton fan in the Philippines.
I fell in love with the Seattle Supersonics. I was already aware of Gary when he was drafted in the 90s. And so Gary wasn't a superstar yet around that time, 92, 93. And then like 94, I was like, ang galing nung Gary Payton. And I always loved players who could play two-way. And so I saw this point guard and he was, very cocky. He had a lot of flavor in him. And so the 93, 94, 95 onwards, Sonics were my team. I loved the Seattle Supersonics.
From NBA cards to action figures, Flash has amassed a pretty huge collection of Gary Payton and Supersonics memorabilia. From the NBA cards he acquired in his teenage years to all the caps and jerseys he has worn, Antonio made sure that he gets his hands on all possible Payton and Seattle stuff.
In terms of NBA memorabilia, I collect a bunch of jerseys from the Seattle Supersonics. I have a lot. Obviously, part of my Gary Payton collection would be his Lakers jersey, his Miami Heat jersey when he won the championship. And I also had him sign his Miami Heat championship jersey and his Seattle Supersonics jersey. And obviously, I have NBA cards. All of these are signed in person by Gary Payton. This was my very first NBA insert. So this is like super shiny. The name of the card is Warp Speed. So it very much plays into my nickname of Flash. And this is Top Crop. And this card with Gary's signature up front shows the best guard in the West with the best guard in the East. So this is MJ at the back.
I wore this last Friday.
You wore it? Call you Flash, huh?
What sets Flash apart from the regular NBA fan is that he has met the glove in person. For him, his personal interaction with GP during his Philippine visit remains as the pinnacle of being an NBA fan.
I met Gary in August 2010. It was such an unforgettable experience because I never really dreamt that Gary would be here in the Philippines. This rookie card was the very first thing that he touched when I first met him. And he said like, okay, let's get this signed. This one was just special for me because I really loved, Gary, growing up and I patterned my game after him. This one is super memorable because it took me 3 days, 3 different days of trying to wait for the perfect opportunity to get close to him. And when I met him and when I first, finally shook his hand, I hugged him. I told him, I have a bunch of memorabilia and they're at home. And I really wanted you to see them, and show you how much you meant to me. And Gary, I remember Gary was like, how far is your house from the hotel? And I was like, 15 minutes. So he goes, you go home, you get your stuff, and I'll sign them for you. So that's what I did. I went home, I got all of my NBA binders in one paper bag. I brought my Seattle Supersonics jersey, went back to the hotel, and then talked to him after he ate breakfast. Showed him my stuff. He said, let's get them signed. So this was the first thing he signed.